Shah Jahan, who is the principal of the Dhaka Polytechnic Institute, will be presenting the first paper, Strategic Workforce Planning in Bangladesh, Capacity Issues in the TVET Subsector.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson and the distinguished participants here. I will present about strategic workforce planning in Bangladesh, capacity issues in TVET subsector. As we know that our TVET sector is expanding, our Honorable Prime Minister has given priority to expand this sector, and at present we have enrollment about 14%, which was only 2% in 5 years back. In expanding our TVET sector, we have some issues in implementing and our workforce development. And mainly I will discuss about capacity issues in TVET subject. Now, what does the strategic workforce planning mean? Strategic workforce planning is the process of analyzing, forecasting and planning workforce supply and demand, assessing gaps and determining required intervention in order to ensure that the country is able to continue achieving its mission involving the three dimensions of the governance. First one is instruments, which includes acts, mandates and regulation, etc. Second is translation of instruments for operationalization with living inputs in national standard classified workforce at all the three levels of manpower, and non-living inputs, physical facilities, tools and equipments and infrastructure, etc. Ensuring delivery of the targeted timely production, generation, manufacturing and administrative, economic, social services by all the public and private organizations for growth acceleration. As we know, our TVET sector is expanding, and our target is to enroll 20% by 2020 and 30% by 2030 and 40% by 2040. And our main target is to bring our national economy to mid-level economy by 2020 and to reach as a rich country by 2040. So these are the main three dimensions of the governance for strategic workforce planning. If we see the strategic workforce planning, there are 6 phases with the stakeholders' active involvement in all phases. The workforce planning cycle consists of strategic directions, supply analysis, demand analysis, gap analysis, solution formulation, then in implementing monitoring forecast. These are the 6 phases for the workforce planning. And in our TVET sector, as the expanding is going on, the sector is seriously suffering in all phases of workforce planning due to the reason like absence of realistic TVET governance, then lack of institutional and organizational capacity, non-practicing trends of professionalism, unrealistic qualification and recruitment rules in TVET organizations, lack of relevant qualified professionals for forecasting, planning, designing and developing workforce in terms of curriculum design, program implementation and research and development. Monitoring and auditing the implementation process, designing the assessment system as well as assessment tools for both formative and summative assessment in traditional TVET. And the current issues in our country context, placement of non-professionals in professional positions, assessing the irrelevant job for a professional position, and absence of job description. Also, non-practicing attitude of job description, job specification and professional specification in workplace. Most of mentioned issues are related to the institutional as well as organizational capacity in TVET. These are the major 4 current issues in our TVET sector. And the recommendation. As part of strategic workforce planning, all the mentioned issues should be addressed and required to formulate the immediate solutions with actions. This is in brief outline of my presentation regarding the workforce planning capacity issues in TVET subsector. Yes. So any questions?
I think we will keep,
after all the
we will keep the question and answer until the end of the session.
okay.
So thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Shah Jahan. So may I now invite the second speaker, who is Mr. Muhammad Kamaruzaman, who is the Deputy Director of the NSDC, to present your paper entitled Establish Skills Data System for Future Planning.
Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Kishore Kumar Singh, Chief Technical Advisor, Research Project ILO Dhaka, respective presenters, facilitator and audience, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. My presentation is Establish Skills Data System for Future Planning in Bangladesh. Why we want to establish skills data system? Because future market is uncertain and depends on so many factors. You see, technology is always changing, environment is changing, job pattern is changing, and individual and country cannot control the factors and difficult to predict the future. So individual and country cannot control the changes. A realistic assumption can provide the picture of future labor market. When thunder comes, so we first see the light, and according to the light, we can assume what type of sound will become. So if we have a good data, so according to data, we can predict the future of our workforce. Decision made today based on forecasting can help a nation to decide the right thing to do in right time. Many countries in the world establish their own skills data system, and on the basis of available forecasted data and information, prepare their future strategic workforce plan. Data system is the prime need for forecasting, planning, and utilizing the skilled workforce for holistic development of country. I know European Union, like Malaysia, make their data system, and they prepared the plan, future plan, what the workforce level they need in future. And Malaysia forecasted that in 2020 they will all workforce will be in level 3. Now, what we need to establish a data system? I think 5 major components of this data system are database of existing classified workforce. So now the workforce employed. So what are the occupation? What are the level? Well, first we want to know the existing situation. Supply side and demand side data according to occupation and level, harder to process and store data, software to entry process, search, retrieve and organize data, and the last one, but the most important one, the competent human resources. So we need a database of existing employed workforce the occupation according to occupation, according to level, sector and subsector. So how can we can make this database? So we need a government order or rules. So everybody should classify their industrial workforce. So they can, it can be possible by RPL, and RPL can be assessed in the workplace. So easily we can assess our existing workforce according to occupation and level. Supply side workforce, you know, every quarter, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics give the labor force survey data. From this data we can get the working age population, young dependent, old dependent, and we need to know how many graduates will come from the training institutes. Training institute may be government, private, industrial, and maybe apprentices. And data must become to gender segregated. And we want to know who are the unemployed, and who are the job seekers. LMS manpower may be the graduate, apprentices, unemployed, underemployed, job seeker, and young dependent. You know, today's young dependent will next 5 or 10 years they will come to our workforce. So we have to consider the young dependent. Demand side data inputs. You know, demand will come from the industry. So first we want to know the current back-end positions. What are the number of back-end positions? And Industry Skill Council, you know, Bangladesh, we have established 12 industry skill councils and in 12 sectors. So sectoral data can become, demand data can come through Industry Skill Council. The data may become industry association or individual employer. Data may become ministries, divisions, directors, because government departments fill their post by their own system. Public Service Commission, BMET, demand from abroad. You know the BMET is able for the foreign overseas employment and VIRA also. So all these parties are involved to provide demand data. And only the parties, if the parties are involved without the other secondary sources may be considered also, say the economical growth of the country, a direct investment, government policy, political situation, political willingness, technological change, environmental change, like this. This secondary data also is considered for demand. Elements demand for employment, maybe you see this figure can help you to understand the demand. You see the vacancy, while untimely death, labor turnover, promotion, retirement, resignation, this may be occurred the vacancy. And another one is self-employment and growth of domestic investment, technological change, environmental change, foreign direct investment. All are the phenomena the parties are involved for demand for employment. Now the hardware side and site preparation. You know the 5 parts. One part is the hardware. We need a server, and server size may be depend on the data size. Maybe 10 terabyte or 20, 30 according to the size of data. So we have a constant power supply. The server need a constant power supply. We can use the online UPS or the standby generator for the constant power supply. Temperature should be maintained in the server, so we need the air conditioner and its server rack, furniture, fire extinguisher. We should protect the server for the we can use the smoke detector, and we, of course we use the security system and prevention of unauthorized access, and the last one is backup system. We should another station may give a backup system. Lead to site preparation, install and configuration of the system, testing and troubleshooting, hands-on job training, list of do's and don'ts. Required software, program software, we can use Oracle or MySQL, internet facility of course, antivirus, trainer's guide, user guides, troubleshooting guide, and help desk guide also. Capacity development. From my starting, we said that the most important part of the system is the human part. So, if human is not ready, the lively part of the system. So we have the hardware, software, everything is not working properly. So we need a group of professionals, we need a group of professional persons that involved dedicatedly and trained properly. We need a capacity development of the training providers like BTB, BMET, DTE, DYD, DWD, and DU and private providers also. And we need a huge capacity development for industry skill council, industry people, because demand data provided by industry. Industry yet they some industry yet they don't know the antibiotics, they don't know the level. So how can give the demand according to occupation and level? So a capacity building is needed for industry skill council and industry association and individual industry also. Other consideration, you can consider also the requirement analysis report, work in progress report, technical documentation, installation and configuration manual, troubleshooting guide, help desk guide, training completion report, guidelines are like that. What we need from the data system by LMIS. So we can produce here a report gap between the supply and demand. What is the demand and what is the supply, and we can see whether it is excess of demand or excess of supply. And according to the report, we can say our training institute, so you can enhance your some trades, you can enhance your enrollment, or we can say this occupations has no demand, so you can close, or you can think different way. So this report can help us and minimize our cost, and our graduates can take their decisions according to the report. We can produce the institutes, the number of institutes, and according to the locality, according to the trade or occupation, which occupations are offered by which institute. We can generate this type of report. We can make a report by trade or technology. Welding, which institutes are offering welding, or how many number of enrollment can take by the welding trade. We can generate by this report, and we can develop report also the industry, which industry is located in which area, what are their capacity, or number of employees, male and female, which are the occupations in that industry. So this type of report we can generate from here. LMIS in most simplistic form, we talk about it. The labor work institutes, we can reset, and then the output we can get the report. And what type of the LMIS or the data system we think about? This will be user-friendly features and efficient data management, one-stop shop for all users, easy accessibility, government ownership, and it may use by job seekers, researchers, analysts, employers, counselors, educators, and media also. And that's all my presentation. If you have any question, you may ask later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad. Now may I invite the third presenter of paper number 3, Mr. Walibi Nambobi from the research. He is a research graduate at the TVET, specializing in CSE and the IUT. This paper is entitled Big Data in Technical and Vocational Education.
The session share the resource persons, the participants. I salute you all. I'm Nambobi Mutwali, and I'm going to present you the big picture in big data. And my title is Big Data in TVET. I'm from the Department of Technical and Vocational Education at the Islamic University of Technology, Bangladesh. I'm from Uganda. Now, they said an image tells a million stories. This image here shows data. Data is coming from very many sources, and it's coming into institutions. Data is coming in as never before, and this is the advantage of being talking about data, and this is the model to solve what I've been talking about. What is big data? We define big data as the increase in volume, variety, velocity, veracity, value of data sets that require new forms of processing to enable greater decision making and insight discovery of interesting patterns. Now, the outline and objectives of my paper, I'm going to talk about the concept of big data, the V's of big data, about velocity, veracity, value, volume, then the tools and importance of big data in TVET. About the V, volume, the amount of data is too big, and I'm going to show you how big is the data available and how to take advantage of it to produce good insight in your research and TVET findings. Variety. Data exists in different formats. Here, there are formats like structured, these are tables, like Excel forms. Then there is unstructured, like social media data. How can a TVET educator or an institution take advantage of all that data? Then veracity, the trustworthiness and dependability of the information produced after analysis. Velocity, the rate at which data is coming in is so fast. As I told you in my first picture, that data is coming in from different places, and this means it is coming in so fast. Value refers to the benefit assured after the analyzed data. This is the importance of the data. How big is the data? According to IDC, how big is the data? When you look at 2017, the data is at 22.5 zettabyte. That's too big a data. I'm going to show you what it means, a zettabyte. A big picture about the data. A zettabyte is 1024 exabyte. Now, I use the real world comparison. When you look, we know that the Library of Congress has got the largest number of books available on earth. So, on comparison to my data, A zettabyte is compared to 180 million libraries of Congress. That's big. That's how big the data is. Now, big data. So what? TVET directories in need of big data. I'm going to show you how a researcher, a student, all the directories and how they can use the data. So departments, directories, and bodies. And here, these are the possibilities. How you can take insight of the data or the data you collect and get more value out of it. In research, you can know, using these big data tools, you can know the trending research, what is on the market now in TVET, the text research. You can know, if you have a paper, you can just put in the tools and know what it is about, the sentiment about it, and retrieval of the data. Then another directorate or department, the student community development and support, sentiment analysis. Here you can know, using big data tools, you can know what your students are talking about on social media, like Facebook, Twitter. You can know the student behavior using search patterns and taking advantage of these big data tools. For example, if students are on the network of the school and they use the internet, you can know, using search patterns, you can know what are the students talking about. When they are on our internet, do they use internet for educational motives or not? Also, you can mitigate issues and students' complaints before they go viral. And repetition management. Then in planning and institutional support, that is analytics of financial audits, recommendation engines, and forecast. Now here I'm going to give an example of a recommendation engine. Assume your student, I'm sure most of us here are TVET practitioners. Assume your students are searching about computer science, or let me put it in a behavior, bullying, or how can I stop a person from bullying. Now, you as a staff or quality control in your department or planning and institutional support, you can see that pattern, but using the security that you can't know the person or who texts on the network, you can use it as a recommendation engine. We have notice boards, and you can post what the students searched about exactly. You can, by Monday, you just put on the notice board how to prevent bullying. So the students can learn, in fact, that very student can learn about it even more and understand that, I searched about this on Friday. Why is it that it's on the notes board now? So you can take advantages of recommendation engine using the big data tools I'm going to show you here and forecast. Now, examination and assessment. Here, performance prediction. Using these big data tools, you can know whether you have winners or you should try to add more effort on your teaching skills or your teachers. Then curriculum development and support. that institutional the industrial requirements and trends through text analysis. Now we go to quality control to be aware of damages. Using these big data tools, you can mitigate damages and also the social impact on social media, spotting anomalies. We have that department of quality control using these big data tools. You may not even need an analyst to mitigate some anomalies available, like strikes. You can know because they may. I'm putting an example. In case of a strike, these students may be discussed on social media groups, and using Facebook, you can know using the tools available. Legal, leveraging email and documents, then procurement and logistics, mileage analysis, and changes in stock. This is a big picture. One time, I'm going to give a live example. One time I found a principal checking out on stock, and I asked him, why into stock market? And he told me last month I bought mileage. I bought what? Gas for my vehicle. In the next coming week, he saw that the prices were more higher than before. But he uses tools, big data tools, to predict changes in stock. But remember, this person is not a stock analyst. He's just a TVET practitioner. Yeah. Then, human resource, performance tracking, and conflict resolution through text analytics in May. Now, I'm going to the conclusion, but here's where you can find the data. But I've talked about this, how you can get the data, server logs, sensor data, social media and messages, also learning management system. You can know where the data is. These are the tools. These are the tools available, and more are still coming on how to use big data. And I listed few and how you can leverage the use of it. I'm sure this PDF you can be given out, and you can use to predict, to analyze, and also visualize the data available. Conclusion. Now, in order for TVET stakeholders to cope up with the way society uses data, it has to shift from business focus to personal focus, targeting, that's skill development and innovation motive, from structured to unstructured, from reflecting yesterday's data to here and now. This can be done in big data, but putting privacy measures into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby, for your paper. And now, but not least, we would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Inamul Haq, Assistant Engineer, PGCB, Member Secretary, Conference Secretary, to present his joint paper with Dr. Muhammad Shah Alam Jammuda. And the title of the paper is MPO Vocational Schools and Teacher Status in Bangladesh, NSDP Implementation Perspective.
Good evening, respected chair and distinguished guests and participants, distinguished facilitator. All are tired, now it's time to sleep, I think. So I will take another 10 minutes. So thank you very much for the participation. I'm going to present a study paper that the head of status of MPO vocational schools and teachers in Bangladesh. That is for NSDP mission perspective. It's a joint effort. This is myself, Namun Haq, and Dr. Shahan Muzumdar. So I'm going to say something about the background of this study. The National Student Policy 2011 is a major achievement of Bangladesh. So this is the comprehensive policy guide to the skill development studies in both public and private sector, and the facility improved coordinate of all parts involved in education and training in Bangladesh. The National Student Policy provides the vision and direction of the skills development over the coming years, setting out the major commitments, key reforms to the government will implementing in partnership with industry, workers and civil society. By using the background, a training program was designed to implement the National Student Policy in 2016. The first target was that 200 TVET teachers will be covered by the training program, and finally we covered 204 TVET teachers from the DT for a training program. This training program was jointly organized by the International Labour Organization, BCA projects and IDB, and also supported with the DT, BTB. So in the training program, we take opportunities to make a study questionnaire and supply to the participants, and we take some data. After data, we prepare some findings and recommendation. Anyway, the background of the technical vocational MPO schools and colleges in Bangladesh, that there is total 2,656.
Use this one. Sorry.
We have 2,656 MPO schools, either individual or adults in general school, Dakhil vocational, and we have more than 12,000 vocational instructors of Bangladesh. Total vocational schools students is very good number of 2,820 students now. So this paper is study report on the condition of vocational schools and teachers of Bangladesh. Anyway, so I'm going to the status of the sampling. The total we took 204 participants among the 114 numbers of schools, and we covered the schools number of schools. That's the highest number of schools is 26% from Dhaka, and I'm happy to inform you that we cover all of the district of Bangladesh. So the sampling data, that was the highest, male 77% and female 23%. So department was the participant was that highest number of participants from the electrical department, that was the 33%, and there is the very lowest 2% chemical and the power some and others department. I'm going to the status of the number of trade. I think the three numbers of trade we have in the schools. 58% schools have two numbers of trade. They are running two numbers of training program in the vocational school and institute. So it is very great pleasure to provide you the information by the sample data. That's the after the training and before the training, there is only 60% TVET teachers. They have the idea. There was the idea about the NSDP. But the Bangladesh has launched the National Student Policy in 2011. But I'm sorry to inform you that it is only 16% TVET teachers was informed about this National Student Policy. And the industrial experience of the teacher, industrial experience, no industrial experience have 48%. That means 48% vocational teachers have no industrial experience in Bangladesh. And 52% have the experience. And what about the pedagogy training of the teachers? So 62% MPO vocational school and teachers, they have no any pedagogy training, but still they are running the training program. And only 38% have the pedagogy training, but 38% pedagogy training. How long they are pedagogy training? It's on 19%. 19% on to 3 weeks have the pedagogy training. But if you consider how many persons have the 1 year pedagogy training, I think it's only 3%. 3%. Those have the pedagogy training. Among the pedagogy training participants, they have the only 3% of teachers. They have the 1 year training, 1 year pedagogy training. So that is the status of pedagogy training. Teaching experience. Yes, we have the we have more than 15 years teacher in Bangladesh. They have the 15 years teaching experience. Okay, and less than 10 years we have 30% MPO functional teachers in Bangladesh. And it is another issue. Now is the digital Bangladesh, and all education is almost depends on the internet, right? So teachers, students have to find out the materials from the internet site. So that's the information that about the how many percent of teachers they are using email address. So before the training program, they have only 48% participant was the teacher was using the email address. For training program, this training program using that's the if the participant teacher have to register through online. That is why it's a pressure for the teachers. And after the pressure, only 41% teachers we can increase. And still 11% numbers of teachers they are not using the internet. I mean among the 2,204 teachers. So this is the things. And what about the infrastructure of Bangladesh? TVET, MPO functional schools. So there is attached vocational education with the general education. There is 32%, and the separate technical vocational education is the 68% in Bangladesh. So infrastructure of lab workshop. So I am using that's a Bangalore and Pakka building. That's a building. We have 65% have the building. Still, we have the school in Bangladesh on 18%. We have 18% tin shed school. That's the infrastructure structure of the MP functional schools of Bangladesh. So, what about the library? So, we have separate library. Only 36% schools have the separate library for the technical and vocational education. And still, we have 64% schools have no library for the technical and vocational education. Regarding constant, we have a question that for the participant. What do you think that what is the main reason to constant of vocational education? Teachers' comments. They are putting that I think 18% teachers they tell us, they rate us that I have no idea what's the main reason of the constraint. And some are among the main reason that they found from the teacher, they think lack of trained teachers, lack of machine tools, lack of sufficient number of teachers, lack of infrastructure. That this information given by the teachers of this Bangladesh among the 204 teachers. So, what is the recommendation? It's recommendation not from the researchers. It's recommendation from the participant or respondent or the teachers. They are asked to say that you have to take immediate action, something that the technical vocational education is governing by the attached school headmasters, and headmasters are following the order of the some local coordinator, administrator like officer, education officer. So teachers want to say that if any government agency issue a order to the responsible department, so that to enhance the and focusing the technical vocational education, so that would be a very effective way to enhancement the education vocational education. So the teachers are asked to say that NSB division program should be constant for NSDP 2011. It should be constant immediately because teachers are not aware about the national skills policy. Teacher also wants to say that the employment civil service should be established in a very short time for the growing employment of the TVET graduate. And Also, you know that Bangladesh have a stipend education system, and both are general education students, they got the stipend, but unfortunately, still the vocational schools students, did not get any stipend. So the teacher wants to say that if government can start the stipend system for the vocational education students, so the vocational education should be enhanced. And also teachers, they are put some long-term action. So they want to say that separate projects should be done, should be should be taken by the Ministry of Education. Capacity and recruitment of CTVET certified trainer and reform traditional assessment and certificate system based on NTV12. Also, we have some recommendation. I would like to provide the information about the recommendation to my another author, Dr. Shanu Muzumdar, to few some.
Thank you very much. I am the co-author of this paper. I want to acknowledge some peoples and organization to support this research works. First of all, it is the program of IDB, DT and NSDC supported by ILO. So I want to recognize this all organization. Only 2 days dissemination program. But IDB is a such kind of organization who want to take the advantage or facilities of the programs. We collect 2,204 teachers, so we prepare a questionnaires and other research paper. That is the advised by ILO program officer Mr. Haripada Das. Then we are the team. Among the team, I am the one of them. I am also the member secretary of this conference planning committee, and he is the secretariat committee. Mr. Kamrujaman also in that part. Mr. Mujahidi and Faisal. All these people work for this basic research, and this is a basic information. I am very much thankful to ILO for supporting, and we took the advantage of 2 days training. We find from that. So I recognize all these organization and people. Thank you very much.
We want to thank all the 4 speakers for presenting your papers. The time is now open for a short session of question and answer from the audience. Now, if any one of you would like to ask any question, you can just press the speaker in front of you and just announce what is your name, and then direct your question to the respective speaker. May I invite the speakers to take your place in front? Mr. Inamul and Dr. So the session is now, you can begin the session now.
Very good afternoon. I'm Monimujjaman Moni. As your audience of this level of session, I'm very powerful and thank you all. I just asked a question to Mr. Inamul, that how did you collect your data from by online or online questionnaires or hard copy?
So it was a hard copy questionnaire, and we provide directly to the participants, and they fill up and take it. That's the way.
Thank you. Another for the guy from IUT. We are very enjoyed that your fantastic presentation. One thing, I am just telling this as an audience, a simple audience, that you have shown that I am all through your slides. I have seen that if you change the word TVET with any other words like school, hospital, industry, or something like this, it will go for that. And I think that it's all about maybe big data and its uses. And TVET is just a word to put in here. I think something like this. The main thing is big data and its uses. TVET is just a word. If I want to change it to the hospital or industry or something like any kinds of word, it's just go there. I think so, please don't mind. As audience and another sir from NSDC sir, there is one thing that in your slide 8, maybe you in the slide number 8 you mentioned something about security system for the hardware. So if you elaborate us what is about that security system, it will be very clear for us.
First of all, who? You?
So, yeah.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for, it was like a recommendation, right?
It's just a comment.
Yeah, but the reason I put technical vocational education is I wanted to highlight the departments in TVET specifically and what the possibility they can use the data. That's the main point why I used big data in TVET. But it can be used in all the respective industries you talked about, in health, DNA, what. But here, specifically, I concentrated on TVET. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for your question. We know about the hacking.
Sir.
All we know about hacking. Of course, we need the authentic data, but we must ensure that this data does not use it another way. So we secure our data system so that anyone cannot enter our data system. They only can see the reports and the report side also. Report side, and someone may enter in the supply side, someone may enter in the demand side. All persons cannot enter the whole system or the administration, but they cannot enter. So this security system must be ensured. Thank you.
The security system only the physical security system?
No, the software also.
All types of security
All
system.
types of security.
Like parallel also. Parallel. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now we can only time for one other question, maybe from another member of the audience. Otherwise, I'm going to pass the time over to the chair.
I think
No question.
No question. So I would like to pass the time over to the chair for the closing.
that I think some heat.
Is he going to summarize a little bit when maybe?
Thank you all for participating in the session. Let me first thank IDB for organizing such a wonderful workshop and handling so many people, devising so many sessions so meaningfully, including this session. Thanks to my facilitator who has kept the time, and thanks to you for your being short, crisp and focused. All the presentations were wonderful, very interesting presentations. I want to touch upon a few points on the session and how the presentations were aligned to the session. The session is on TVET governance and capacity building strategies, right? What I heard the most is data, and data is one aspect of the governance, very important, especially in the case of Bangladesh, where the skills reform agenda is on a peak now. I think this data system is very, very important. But that's not all, you know. There are lots more to TVET governance system. Yes, another aspect of the governance system which was touched upon, which is a policy, you know, which is a very important aspect of the governance. The other aspect of governance is institutions, you know, which is also touched upon that, I mean, the first paper, that what kind of institutional weaknesses are there. The third aspect of, you know, governance system is legislation, you know, that when we are talking about TVET or we are talking about NTBQF, you know, is it a law? Is it a, I mean, policy? Policy is not law, you know. Policy could be many, but may not be implemented. As you heard, that only 18% people had heard about it. Forget about even implementation or, you know. So there could be many policies and there could be many laws. What is one thing which is missing all through is awareness to create an enabling environment in the country about the skills. In market term, what we say, social marketing, you know, which is one aspect which is missing. Still, the awareness about the skills among the industries and among the suppliers, among the stakeholders, is one a missing part of the puzzle, you know. How can we get a data, you know, from industries when they don't have, you know. It is good to talk about data, but it is another thing that what is our expectation, you know, and what is the capacities to generate that data. I bet you go to 80 or 90% of in this industries and you ask them that what in 5 years, which occupation will be most in demand in your sector or in your companies, you know, what is your growth plan and how many more skilled workers would you be needing, you won't get that data. So how do we generate that data? The supply side can tell you that how many people they will train because they are fixed number, right? But they will not tell you that, I mean, what is the demand side? And till we don't get a demand side data, you know, why are you training people when you don't know that whether the employment is available or not available? There is another missing link, which is a bridge between demand and supply. And I didn't hear about it, which is a very important part of the governance system, which is a employment support service. That is a bridge between supply and demand, you know, which is exclusively missing in TVET system, right? Because I have passed out, you know, somebody told me, like when he passed out, he didn't know where to go. He didn't know what are the industries, I mean, will employ him. One of our experiences tells us that when we work with Bangladesh Institute of Glass and Ceramics, they were preparing a database of the employers. And trust me, that most of the employers, there are only 54 employers, by the way. And none of them knew that BIGC exists. How do you generate data when there is no awareness about it? You know? And BIGC had not approached any of these industries for employing their own trained graduates. They got it on their own. You know? Like a football, you kick from here, somebody kicks from there, and somewhere it goes to the goal, you know, goal post. So that's how people get job. You know, there's no organized system. That's a very important aspect. That number one, that we need to generate that awareness that skills is important for productivity and growth, you know. And the industries stop getting their employees through their relatives and through their staff, you know, telling their staff, you have any your uncles or, you know, your mama or chacha, anybody who can looking for employment, I'll give you employment, right? Or if they go to the factory gate and pick people, not 10 people only come, rest of the go, you know. This is what happens. This is a reality, right? So I think this whole culture has to change, you know, And this can only change when we have a right policy, right institutions. We don't have a ministry of skills, right? So there are 22 ministries which are imparting skills training or vocational training, but there is no institution. It is very recent that NSDC has been created, and as you know that NSDC had not much capacity. Over the years it has really grown, it has become acquired capacities, but not enough capacity to really coordinate effectively with 22 ministries. It doesn't have still a database which can tell you about the skills demand or the employment situation. It requires a lot of capacities, and which has to be built by the government. It's a government institution, right? So I think that the point which we are missing is that TVET governance is a much bigger concept than the data system alone. I don't want to say much because you all must be tired. But the one thing which I wanted to tell you, that I really like the first paper. I like all the papers, but the first paper really very clearly says that how to process data, the skills, data, then supply side data, demand side data, then gaps analysis. It is very systemic. One point which is missing is the trends analysis. A long-term trend. In the last 10 years, what happened? What was the trend? That may give us some projections about future. Not complete projection, but some indication about the future. Right? So the trend analysis is equally important than the existing supply and demand data. The second point which I wanted to make, that when we say long-term plan, how long-term? 50 years, 30 years, 20 years, So this data must help us to have immediate plan, intermediate plan and long-term plan. Right? Well, we know that the RMG industry is planning a growth worth 50 billion of export. So that's like a long term, right? For that you need larger infrastructure, larger kind of economic processing zones and blah blah blah. It's a long term, But what is the intermediate plan? What is the short term plan? There's one survey. I don't know the authenticity of this survey, to be honest, which came in the light few years back, 4-5 years back, that R&D sector needs 200,000 skilled workers every year, and 20% of their machines are lying idle because the skilled workers are not available. Similar figure in your leather sector, that 70,000 skilled workers are required every year. So these are the assessment, very broad assessment. This is our intermediate, need. Okay, and what is our immediate need? That our immediate need is that we need to have the skills institutions which respond to the market demand at least. Minimum what they do. If you haven't heard about NSDP, then how do I expect you to prepare yourself to respond to the demand, right? So I think we have to look at a future plan in a more comprehensive manner, and once we know that what kind of a plan we are looking for, then it also helps us to dig out the data in a similar manner. And the last point which I wanted to make, which I am very passionate about how to make inclusive skills, how to make data itself about inclusion. How many women can you find in this room? And this is a scenario in any of the skills workshops you go. I'm sorry to say this, but that's the situation. How many persons with disabilities you can find here? Despite 9% of population. 9% means, can you imagine how many millions? 160 millions, 9 million is 9% is a huge population, which is equivalent to many of the small countries' population put together. 2 million New Zealand and there are many countries like that. Okay, So it's a huge population. But do we have data about it? No. There is no data that how many people, even there are many TVET institutes who they admit persons with disabilities, but they don't have any data. So we are not talking about disaggregated data. I mean, forget about LGBT. I'm saying even gender disaggregated data is not there. You know. And then, how many indigenous people have access to skills? No data. You know. So when we are saying data, we also need to see that what kind of a data we are looking for. Unless we have inclusive mind, we will not have a data on inclusive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the Chair, Mr. Kushal Kumar Singh, who has raised many salient points, and I hope that you all will take I hope that you all will bear in mind some of the points that he has. So can I now invite the Chair, Mr. Kishore Kumar, to hand the plaque to the speakers.
Sir.
Can I now invite the second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Kamaruzaman, to receive the plaque. Can I now invite Mr. Nambobi Mutwalidi to receive the plaque?
You need a big plaque. Because a big data.
Sir, looking, sir, please. Sir, please. Thank you.
And finally, may I invite Mr. Inamu Haq to receive.
Thanks to create awareness and create more awareness. Yeah.